Hi, it's Carla from Creative Love Affair, and I'm here today with the Emerald Creek Craft Supplies to bring you a beautiful Easter canvas. Now, I will link below some of the stamps that I created enamel embellishments with, and I have a process video for that. And then here's the canvas where I show you how I put it all together. So I'm starting off with one of the Tim Holtz Sunray stencils, and I'm putting on some Distress Oxide ink and just making a sunny, beautiful background. Then I'm going to offset this pretty stencil just a bit, and I'm taping it up because I'm going to use some of the new Distress Resist spray. This is very fun, but you need to make sure that you use it in a box. It will stick to everything. So I spray it on, I take my stencil right away and rinse it off to make sure that it doesn't permanently stick. Then this gives you a background to pour your embossing powder on. I've used the Emerald Creek Charred Gold powder. It melts to a gorgeous gold with flecks of dark colors and other colors in it. It's really pretty. I used a Urnex stamp stitched die just to cut some hills in this paper to use as a bit of a stencil, and I'm adding some light cloud effects there with some blue distress ink. Now I have cut out with my Cricut some grass layers. I've added a little bit of ink around the edges, and it turned out it really didn't matter what color I used, but and then I sprinkled over the green sparkle embossing powder, and it just sticks to whatever areas that you use the oxide ink on. Now I've got the Northern Lights embossing powder that I'm using for this part of the grass, and I use a paintbrush just to flick off some of that to make it look more like some grass layers. Here I'm embossing the green sparkle. I really love the sparkle in this. It is beautiful, and you can see it close up, just gorgeous. And the Northern Lights, beautiful as well. I always emboss a little bit from the back just to slightly melt it so my powder doesn't blow away. And you can see how beautifully it melts. The Northern Lights has lots of different blues in it, and it's really gorgeous. Now I'm going to layer on the grass die cuts just by gluing them on the bottom, and so I can tuck other things into the grass. And I've just got some glue here that I'm gluing to the canvas. Now I had die cut a rabbit with my Cricut, and I just used a pencil to lightly trace where I wanted to add the embossing powders to the center. This center part is Winter's Mistake. It's beautiful embossing powder with whites and glitter and some blues in there. And I start out by using the small end of the Versamark marker, and now I'm doing the flower, and I'm doing it with the Spiced Candy embossing powder, and this stuff smells amazing. It is part of the aroma line, and it smells like cinnamon hearts. It is so nice. Just a beautiful cinnamony sweet smell. While you can smell it like that while it's in the container, and as well while it's melting, and even afterward. Very cool. So I just put 2 layers on that, and now I'm using the Apple Martini. Again, it's amazing, and I'm doing the little vine here that's on the bunny, and I'm gonna layer this a couple times as well. And I kind of realized that the larger brush end of the Versamark marker worked a bit better, and I didn't have to be so inside the lines because I do have that top layer that's going to go over it. So I just decided I'm going to do a little bit more of the red just to fill in some of the spots. The Apple Martini melts to such a pretty green with kind of a gold undertones in it. And now we've got more of the Northern Lights powder that we're going to do in the top area. And then I'm coloring in the ears with an alcohol marker and just layering over a little bit of dark shadow on that and going over it again with the light to color in this bunny's ears, and then just using a black to color in his eye. And I'm going to layer on some fractured ice embossing powder. It is a really cool clear embossing powder with flecks of blue and black in it, and it just is gorgeous. So I do like using a color often behind this because it is clear and it just takes on whatever color you're using in the background. So I'm just adding one more layer, and I felt like I needed that center of the flower to have a little bit extra, so I decided just to go with the fractured ice powder. And again, this just shows you can layer your powders. It doesn't have to be the same colors. And here's a look close up at how those beautiful colors all came together. And I'm going to glue on the top of the bunny and just using some tacky glue. You can just layer him up, and I love the way the different colors peek through and that there's so much beautiful shine. Now I'm going to tuck this bunny right behind. This paper that the bunny is cut out of is an older Tim Holtz pad, and I just thought it was a cool look for the bunny. Now this enamel embellishment lily is a stamp from Emerald Creek, and I've used vintage beeswax to create an enamel embellishment, and I'm just sticking it in, gluing it at the bottom, and using some foam dots to pop it up. I have a process video on how I created these lilies and finished them off, and I'll link that below so you can see the process that I used and how neat it is. I've die cut a little basket here, and all these die cuts are from the Cricut, and the stamps are from Emerald Creek. So I'm going to tie the ribbon on and just make a little bow here, and then I'm going to use some foam dots to pop up the handle. I love giving a bit of dimension to canvases. And then I've got my glue here, and I'm going to just add it to the ribbon to give it a little bit of extra dimension and movement here so that it doesn't just hang down straight. And then we're going to add in some pretty Easter eggs. I've cut out some eggs with some Lawn Fawn watercolor paper. I'm using an embossing folder, and I rub my Versamark pad right on the folder. You can use either side of the folder depending on how you want your embossing to stick. So I'm going to run that through, and the flowers themselves are embossed in, and because the embossing or the Versamark also went on the folder, it stuck to the edges. So I really think this turned out really cool, and I'm just adding some of the different colors of embossing powder to the eggs, and because they are on colored paper, they had a background of color, and then we're layering on some more embossing powder, and they just turned out really neat. The red is the spice candy. I really like the beautiful red that is, and then we've got the apple martini for the green, and the Northern Lights was on the purple. Now I've decided to ink up the eggs directly with the Versamark ink pad, and we're going to cover them with that beautiful fractured ice embossing powder. And you can see when it's layered on, it just gives such an amazing look to the eggs because of the different colors that are in the fractured ice powder. So when they're melted, they look beautiful. You can see what neat modeled effects those eggs really have, and I felt like they were just a really great addition to this canvas. So I'm gonna glue them in, and I'm not gluing everything flat. I'm letting, you know, some things stick up, and just to give a little bit of dimension to this. Now this is Sylphie the fairy, and she's an adorable little stamp, and I have her on the process video as well, and show you how I color her. And this is a look at how it came together, and it's all finished up and ready to put in our family room for Easter. So I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I hope you'll check out the links below to see what you can find in the Emerald Creek store. And I hope I've given you some ideas about how to use your embossing powder. So I hope you have a wonderful Easter. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I would love for you to like and subscribe.